Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Wild Man. My name is Roy. Today's topic, are modern men pussy whipped? Now before I give my answer, I'd like to ask the viewers just to take a moment to answer that for yourself. What do you think? For me, the answer is yes. Obviously that does not apply to all men, but just looking at the broader culture of the West, the sense that I get is modern men are in fact pussy whipped. Many of them are. Now to start, let's just go with a definition. What does pussy whipped mean? So I got dictionary.com pulled up here, and it says, pussy whipped is an insult for a man who is seen as being controlled by his stronger-willed female romantic partner. This is very fitting because in my work as therapist, a lot of the men who make their way into my office oftentimes arrive there because their girlfriend or their wife told them to. Like, hey, we're having trouble in our relationship. You should go see a therapist. And sometimes they'll do couples counseling, which is good because it's saying that, all right, it's not one person's fault that we're in this situation. The burden lies on both of us. But oftentimes there's this kind of knee-jerk reaction to say something's wrong, the guy needs to go to therapy. And I also asked a colleague of mine too. It's like, I have my own sample size of clients that I've worked with, but maybe that's just one small drop. I need to see if other people experience the same. So I asked my male colleague who also works mostly with men, the same question. How are the men finding their way to your office? Is it because they want to be there of their own volition, or did somebody else tell them to? And he said, yeah, about 80% of the men in my office came here because their partner told them to. So I was like, okay, maybe there's a trend going on here. And just thinking of other resources out there, like No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. In it, he talked about how in the 1960s, after the women's movement, you have a lot more changes where young boys are mostly being raised by their mothers because fathers are far away from the home to do work. Women are mostly the ones at schools teaching. So young boys have this model of who knows where dad is, or dad is emotionally unavailable. So I got to make mom happy. I got to make sure the women who are my teachers at school are happy. Right? I need to get good marks for them and be on my best behavior because good little boys always behave. So you have this setup already to build in this kind of boys, men deferring to women for direction. What should I do? How should I be? Please tell me because I don't know. Now this whole topic of are modern men pussy whipped was inspired by two posts I saw on Instagram. One was a reel of a gay man saying, I get to hang out in circles of women, and just drop in some secret intel for all you straight men out there. Women would find it so sexy if you would just go to therapy. And then there was another post showing a woman holding a sign, which I'll just put up right here, that says, men who go to therapy can get it. And I am inferring that it means the pussy or the vagina. Right? Men who go to therapy are allowed access to the sought after pussy and vagina of women. And those two things didn't sit too well with me. Like, I can take it lighthearted, like, yeah, ha ha ha. But my opinion is that it sets up an unhealthy dynamic for the relationship. One, it puts the burden of relational improvement just on one person, which is the man. The man has got to fix himself. From my sense, a confident woman who is very assured and rooted in her own femininity, in her own feminine grace, would have no need to post a sign that says, men who go to therapy can get it. Okay. She wouldn't need to compromise that or have to point that out because she has already done enough work within herself. She's already deeply connected to her own feminine power, as well as the masculine within her, so that she can just attract that type of man into her life. Because there's no time to waste with the other men. Like, she already knows. She gets a sense. She's like, thank you, but no thanks. And that's that. For the women out there who are holding signs like that, or demanding of their partners, you need to go to therapy. You need to go to therapy because that's the only way our relationship is going to stay together. These women are not asking themselves, why am I in this relationship? Right? And why are you outsourcing so much of your power to your man to make the changes that you believe need to happen so then you can be happy? Wouldn't it be more empowering for the women to empower themselves? For all this talk that modern feminism says about empowering women, it seems to be doing the very opposite. A confident woman wouldn't need to do that. She would have enough self-respect to say to her man, not in a critical or shaming way, but also not in a compromising way, to say, hey, this is where I see our relationship going, and this is how I feel about what's happening. My proposal is that we both do some self-work here. Maybe we see a couples counselor, or we see a coach. But if that's not something you're willing to do, and even your own work is not something you're willing to do, then we've gone as far as we can, right? I'm not willing to continue this journey with you, but I thank you for coming along with me for as far as we've gone. And she doesn't have this sense of like, I really need to hold on to this, or, screw you and, bitch slap him in the face and then go away. There's a sense of groundedness in her. That, in my opinion, is a more empowered place for a woman to come from. And for the man, the unhealthy dynamic such signs like that gives is, oh, so I do self-work for the sake of getting something from women. Because there's something the woman has that I can't get, so I need to do whatever it takes in order to have permission to get the pussy, get the vagina. If that's the motivation, because that's what the sign sets men up to believe. It's like, oh, okay, this is how I get the pussy. I need to go to therapy because women find that attractive and sexy. So therefore, I will go to therapy so that I can get pussy later on. You're not doing it for yourself. And this is one of the problems that I see with a lot of modern men is we've lost touch with our purpose, our mission, our North Star. Instead, we're distracted by all these other things in society, media, TV shows, whatever it is, that these flashing lights say, hey, look here, this is fun, or this is, everybody else is into it, but none of it taps men into their sense of purpose or the spiritual, that there's something deeper, something far more important for why we're here and what we're meant to do. It's all distractions and hedonism. And so because men have become disconnected from that, and they've also become disconnected from other men, men are lost, right? There's nothing to go to besides then going to women to find some sense of comfort, find some sense of pleasure, reassurance. Well, I would say you don't deserve that if you're not connected to this other part of yourself, the part of you that's connected to purpose, that's connected to mission, and that's also connected to truly being able to honor the feminine. If you look at a lot of the modern shows that depict men, one of the shows I think of is 2.5 Men. You have Charlie Sheen, who's the one being starred in the show, and then you have his brother, Alan. Neither of the depictions of these two men is something that I would look up to, but it's what the men in our society get to see. That's what's on the screen for us to see. You have Charlie, a womanizer, right, who doesn't really respect women, nor does he have self-esteem in himself, and therefore he needs to use women in order to shore up against that failing sense of self. And then you have his brother Alan, who is like this puppy on a leash. Adorable, but also geeky and has no spine, really. In the show, there's so much around his divorce with Judith. She divorced him. And there's always this talk in there about alimony, and how he feels pissed off by alimony, but still doesn't show or demonstrate any strong sense of masculinity, which is, an ability to hold a boundary, to be contained, to be assertive, to ask for what he wants, regardless of whether or not somebody likes it or not. And also he's respectful of other people's boundaries. You don't get that sense. He's just like this geeky puppy on a leash. So there aren't a lot of good models out there. But if this is all that men are seeing, then it would make sense. It's like, all right, well, I guess this is the way it is. And Dr. Robert Glover also spoke to this dynamic in his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, where he lays out some of the history of how in the 1960s, with the women's movement growing, you're also having at the same time boys mainly being raised by their mothers because the fathers are out working farther away from home. The teachers at school are predominantly women. So the only model the young boys have is the feminine, is women. This is how I must conduct myself. This is how I must behave because the women around me are reflecting this. Right? How many times have you heard a mother say to her son, good boys don't misbehave. Good boys always behave for their mom. That's where the blueprint is provided for a lot of the men these days. And you also have greater disconnection from circles of men. Right? There's no more circles of men for men to gather in to challenge one another, sharpen one another, to process their emotions together, which is something I think that's a healthy part of all of this, of the women's movement and some of any of the positive aspects of feminism, because my take on modern feminism is that it's doing more harm than good. It's not helping women or men. It's actually making things worse. But the positive aspects that can be salvaged from feminism or the women's movement is that at least it got men to start to think more about, okay, maybe it's important for me to connect to my heart, connect to my emotions. It doesn't mean you share them with women in a gushing way, asking her to take care of them, but you can share them in a contained and grounded manner so that the truly beautiful feminine women out there get to see your heart. They get to connect with you. They want to connect with you. That's a healthy model, in my opinion. I think that's mainly it. The last things I would just share are for men to grab their cocks again, to reclaim that, because otherwise, being pussy whipped, you're essentially saying to the women in your life, here's my cock and balls, I'm not going to use them, so you decide, right? Here you go. If you find your masculinity important at all, reclaim that part of you, because the women are longing for it. The truly beautiful feminine women out there are longing for it. And these are not the women who want to see you fall, who want to shame or criticize you. These are the women who want to see you rise. Okay? They believe in you. So believe in yourself and do it for yourself. Not because, okay, I need the approval of women, but do it first and foremost for yourself because you matter. And also do it, since this is a collective experience, right? Do it in honor of the feminine. Not because you need to get something from her, but because you see the beauty of the feminine saying, that is worth it. And I want to honor that. I want to be able to serve the feminine. I want to exalt her in the strength of my masculine. And the last thing I would say to the men who are watching is, in terms of you being turned on by women, because again, back to that sign, right? Men who go to therapy can get it, and men want the pussy, want the vagina. My recommendation is connect more to your sensuality, because sexuality is to move in the direction of having sexual intercourse. Sensuality is more tied to your five senses, your ability to see, taste, smell, touch, hear. These are your sense perceptions. Oftentimes, as men, when we see a woman, we're like, oh my gosh, she arouses so much in me, and like, I need to get in there. It's like, no, you don't. Let's slow down a little bit. Savor the feeling of arousal that she brings up in you. Like, can you just, in the same way you might witness a sunset or sunrise or a beautiful flower or a beautiful waterfall in nature, can you witness the beauty of women and of the feminine and allow that to run through your body without having to act on it? Right? As if you're watching her or gazing at her as you would a painting. Like, that is beautiful. And thank you for all these feelings, these pleasurable feelings that you arouse in me. That way you won't be so desperate to be like, all right, I need to get it in there. You know, I need the pussy, I need the vagina. No, you can say, I do want that. At some point, I want that. But I can also sit here and just enjoy her without having to have her or control her, or without being manipulated or pulled in by her if she has less than positive motives. So that's all I had to say for today's video. Love to hear any thoughts and comments from you, and I will see you in the next video.